The story begins with an epic fight between the demon lord and the hero. The demon lord prepares to crush him with a massive rock, but the hero picks up a stone from the ground. With all of his strength, he launches it, and although his stone is larger than the rock, it drives it back and even destroys it. He tells the Demon King it's time to end things, so they battle together while unleashing their greatest powers and destroying everything in their path. Both of them are pushed to the point of exhaustion, yet they continue to battle and ultimately stab one another, resulting in both sides taking each other out. The hero is merely relieved that the fight is over. In the present, we see a strange boy named Blade as a new transfer student at Rosewood Academy to train future heroes. He's excited to live a normal life and wants to make 100 friends, so he greets everyone around him. He approaches a group of students, introducing himself, but they think he's a bit weird. He meets Cassim and Clay and the girls, Claire and Jessica. He explains that he's there to just make friends, so Claire wonders if he wants to be their friend. Blade accepts right away, thrilled to have already made 4 friends. At that moment, the top student of the academy, Ernest Flaming, arrived and was wondering about the commotion. She asks Blade who he is because she's never seen him before. Claire explains that he is the new transfer student, but Ernest finds this strange because the academy only admits aspiring heroes, saying it doesn't normally allow late admissions. Blade says he has no intention of becoming a hero, saying he's just there to make some friends and asking her to show him to the headmaster's office. They enter the office, where Ernest is surprised to see King Gilgamesh instead of the headmaster. He informs them that he will be acting as the new headmaster. She bows before him, but Blade casually walks forward. She asks the king to forgive Blade's rudeness, and King Gilgamesh recognizes her, knowing she is the top student. However, he asks her to leave, saying he needs to speak with Blade alone. Ernest becomes upset, wondering how Blade is so friendly with the king. It turns out that Blade is the great hero, and the king wants to help him regain his powers. But Blade claims he is no longer needed because the Demon King has vanished, and he wants to live as an ordinary person. At the training area, Ernest is shocked to see Blade, telling him they are having an advanced class. However, Blade claims that he was instructed to join them after taking the tests for the lower class already. Then Blade goes around, introducing himself to everyone, as Ernest shouts at him to listen to her. A girl tells them that the instructor wants them to assemble, as Blade tells her his name. The girl introduces herself as Sophie, and Blade is happy to meet her, as Ernest calls the instructor, saying she wants to test Blade's ability. They set up a dummy with enchanted armor, and Ernest claims that all advanced students can slice through it. She wants Blade to prove himself to everyone, saying the advanced class is 3 whole levels different. So Blade adjusts his skills accordingly, using a technique to surround his sword with wind as he unleashes his Dragon Eater blast, shattering the dummy and destroying the wall. His sword falls apart, and Ernest wonders who he is, but he still claims to be an ordinary person. During their break, Blade sits with Ernest, and he calls on his friends to sit with them, but they refuse to join him, so he wonders what's wrong. Ernest says that everyone is afraid of her, and that the table has been reserved for her. As Blade devoured his food, Ernest apologized for her attitude while admitting his powers were real. He thanks her for helping him out, telling her they're eating together, so he considers her his friend. This makes her blush, saying she doesn't mind being his friend. That evening, Ernest thinks about Blade, and she is happy because she just made her first friend. But her sword suddenly started shaking. In a flashback, we see a young Ernest as she gets closer to the demon's sword. A voice orders her to surrender herself, and she touches the sword, causing her hair to turn red. Back in the present, Ernest tells the sword that she won't give in to its desires, causing it to stop shaking. During another training session, she has a duel with a boy named Leonard, who charges at her with his lance, but she easily deflects the attack, sending him flying. It's Sophie's turn to fight her, and she is able to go toe-to-toe with Ernest, but she starts using her fire skill, so she jumps away, admitting defeat. Ernest is about to fight Blade, but she feels a strange energy, causing her to collapse. She wakes up in the infirmary after Blade carries her here. Ernest is unable to remember what happened, so she wonders if she did something awful. Blade tells her that she just fell unconscious, but she quickly gets back up, wanting to leave right away. Blade volunteers to look after her, so he carries her around. Later that night, Blade beats all the security bots and hacks into the school's data to find out more about Ernest's demonic sword called Asmodeus. So he confronts her again about this secret. We learn that Asmodeus grants the owner tremendous power, but it has a will of its own. Despite giving her a lot of power, she is not its owner. She reveals how the sword has tried to take over her body since she was young, when she tried to touch it. She has been in a constant fight to prevent it from claiming ownership of her. But Blade assures her that he will cut it down if that happens. So that evening, she demands Asmodeus make an alliance with her, challenging it to test her strength. A pillar of fire surrounds her, and Asmodeus appears before her. As they prepare to fight, a demon emerges from the pillar of fire, wanting to destroy everything, but Blade easily takes it out. Ernest feels assured that Blade is there to back her up, and she brings out her sword, charging at Asmodeus as he breaks his seal, unleashing an energy beam. Their powers collide, and the pillar of fire suddenly disappears as Ernest comes out on top. Blade catches her as she falls, and they are both happy that she made it back. The next day, Ernest asks Blade to look after Sophie, and she reveals that Sophie is always alone, but she obeys any command she's given. Blade approaches Sophie, saying he wants to help her with her training, but Sophie reveals that she was only taught to use her fists. Blade wants to teach her how to use a sword, and she tries wielding it, but she can't even cut through the dummy. He teaches her how to use the sword as an extension of her body, and he demonstrates it, cutting through the dummy with ease. She quickly understands the idea, wondering if she will be able to beat Ernest, but Blade tells her that getting to her level won't be easy. Sophie wants Blade to teach her something else, and the next day, the king asks him about his life in school. Blade tells him that he has made some friends, mentioning Sophie as one of them. The king reveals Sophie was actually created in a lab in some artificial great hero project to manifest the great hero's powers. She is the 12th reincarnation of Sophie Femto, and using her forbidden and lost knowledge, she has been experimented on countless times to manifest the powers of a hero, making Blade upset. But the king tells him not to worry because he has already put an end to that organization. Blade realizes that Sophie has been robbed of a normal life, blaming himself for what happened to her, so he wants to help her get a normal life. Blade barges into the girl's dressing room, asking Sophie to have a date with him, and she agrees to this. Later, we see Blade's friends spying on him as he meets up with Sophie, who knows nothing about dates. Blade tells her to leave everything to him, as he gives her the precise time for everything they will be doing during their date. They reach an arcade, where they play a punching game, and they end up breaking the machines, so Blade's friends offer to pay for it. They share a tropical drink, with their cheeks touching as they drink it. Ernest can't stand watching them, calling them filthy animals. At the end of that day, because Blade considers her his friend, she reveals her secret of being a test subject to be an artificial hero. She demonstrates her powers to bend the laws of physics, but she cannot control them. She can also stop time, but only for 10 seconds. This makes Blade sad that he too reveals his own past. He blames himself for this curse on her. He claims he got these heroic powers at a young age and thought he could save everyone. However, he soon realized he couldn't save everyone and even got blamed for it. He questioned the meaning of being a hero. Sophie consoles him, saying that even if he didn't choose to be a hero, he was still one. He did save some heroes, so he should be proud of that. The same reason why she was created to be an artificial hero, and thus she takes pride in that. Blade promises not to let this past bother him, as they both agree to keep this secret just between themselves. The next day, when the friends are having dinner together, Ernest tells Blade about the mystical beast that the king brought to the school, when suddenly the ground starts shaking. A dragon appeared in the academy, causing the soldiers to panic as Blade arrived, casually walking to the dragon while holding onto a plate. The dragon roars at him as Blade leaps into the air, striking the dragon with powerful fists. Blade successfully knocks down the dragon and offers it food. Everyone is surprised to see that he just defeated it with his bare hands, but Blade claims that he's just an ordinary person. The dragon transforms into a girl who hugs Blade, calling him her father. Blade wonders what he should do as the girl continues to call him her father and wants to play with him. That evening, Blade helps the girl take a bath, and we learn that he named her Ku. Ernest enters the bathroom, and she is surprised to see him taking a bath. Blade asks her if she learned anything, and she tells him that magical beasts, including dragons, seek out strength. If it is defeated, its flesh may perish, but its soul will live on and take the shape of the more powerful creature that defeated it. Ernest asks about why he gave the girl the name Ku, and the girl comes out and says she likes her name. Ernest becomes upset, calling Blade a pervert as she stomps on his face and walks out of the room. The next day, during their training sessions, Blade sees Ku walking around the training area, so he calls out to her and she joins him in the area. At that moment, his friends approached him, asking him to teach them. They are about to begin their training, but Ku suddenly disappears as Blade wonders where she went. Ku appears to be wandering the academy when she notices several students in training. They notice her, asking her if she wants to join them, but she tells them that they're no match for her as she starts running away. Ku bumps into Blade, and she tells him that she's starving, so Blade treats her to some food. While Ku is asleep, Blade talks to Ernest, telling her that dragons are tormented by parents after they're born, so dragons recognize the first stronger being they encounter as their parent. She also tells him that he can't keep pretending to be her parent. However, Blade thinks that Ku has been alone since she was born, so she'll be truly alone if he stops acting as her parent. The following day, Blade sees her in a room playing with dolls as she pretends that they are the students in the academy. She enumerates the names of all the students, imagining that they are all her friends, and this makes him sad. Blade smashes his head against the wall, but Ernest stops him, asking him to explain what happened. He tells Ernest that Ku needs friends, but dragons cannot acknowledge anyone weaker than them as equal, knowing they need to defeat her first. Ernest tells him that he can't fix this by himself, so she suggests asking for help. The following day at the training area, Blade and Ernest seek the help of other students to fight Ku. Even their close friends come to do the same. The students agree to their request, and Ku descends from the sky as the students prepare to take her on. The king watches from above, saying this is the kind of training he wants to see. Ku breathes fire as Ernest pulls out her sword, telling everyone to prepare for battle. Ku attacks with her tail, causing all the students to run, but Ernest lands an attack on her, instructing the others to keep in mind their training. The students get into formation, attacking her blind spot, while the king enjoys the show. But the king notes that their attacks won't be enough to get through a dragon's scales. Ku blows some of the students away, and things aren't looking good for them, but Sophie lands a punch on her, and Ernest attacks with her demon sword. But this is all a distraction so that Leonard can dig a huge hole in which Ku takes the bait and falls into a pit. She tries to fly out, but Sophie pins her down with her gravity manipulation, delivering a decisive blow. Ernest then abuses her sword for power and charges up all her power, and the other students all join hands, giving her all their power. Ernest creates an enormous flame, and she delivers the finishing blow that takes down the dragon. Ku turns back to her human form, and she starts to cry, thinking that she's weak. But Blade tells her it's not that she's weak, but that humans are strong, so she should be friends with them. She asks them all to become friends, and they all happily agree. A few days later, we see them all having lunch together. But Blade notices something different about Ernest, and his friends start to panic. The rest tried to hint at him not to say it, but Blade didn't get the message, and he points out that Ernest seems to have gotten fat. After hearing this, she is horrified and leaves, declaring that their time together is over, but Blade is unsure exactly what went wrong. The gang goes to talk to her as she locks herself in her room. They knock on her door, but she doesn't respond. Jessica picks up the door, and they let themselves in. They turn on the lights, and we see Ernest is actually stuffing herself with sweets. She explains that ever since the fight against Ku, she started getting hungry all the time. Blade asks her if they are still friends, and Ernest says that they are, but she didn't want him to see her like this. After hearing this, Blade is relieved and is ready to leave, but the girls pull him back, insisting they must help Ernest. Blade gives it a shot, telling her that her friends are there for her, so she can rely on them, and Ernest decides to give it a go. They start training to lose those fats, but Ernest struggles to keep up. They help her with other exercises, and she only gets a tiny plate for lunch. But after everything, when she checks her weight, it hasn't gone down at all. The next day, Ernest decides to try something more drastic. She uses the power of her sword, offering up her flesh as power, and she is covered with flames. As her friends show up, curious about what's going on, Blade encourages them to have faith in her. Asmodeus appears to her after she transforms into another form. He asks who they are fighting since she has an unbreakable body that is immune to physical harm, but Ernest explains that she did it only to burn off her fat. And Asmodeus is stunned, but he notes that this form consumes 1,000,000 calories per hour. Ernest is glad she doesn't need to work out, but she starts to get hungry again. She starts to lose control, charging at her friends to eat them, but Blade unleashes an enormous gust of wind, overpowering her, and she returns to normal. But not long after, they see Ernest is fat again, stuffing herself with sweets. They're all disappointed in her, but she claims she can just turn into a demon again, so it's not a problem for her. Blade is informed by the infirmary's doctor that he is making excellent progress, and that his present condition is 30%. Blade asks her if he can use his powers now, but the doctor tells him that he can only use 30% of his strength before he dies. As Blade walks around the academy, he stumbles upon Claire, who introduces him to her friend named Maria, and Blade remembers her as a clumsy student who can't even throw fireballs in the right direction. Maria joins Blade's group at the dining table, and she asks them to kill her if she loses control of herself. She explains that a powerful magical beast exists inside her, and she has a hard time suppressing it. Maria is afraid that the beast will come out at any time and destroy everything. Aside from Blade, everyone is eager to help her. In the arena, which they surround with a magic barrier, Maria removes the limiter from her arm and foot, shattering the ground as it falls, and she reveals that it limits her powers by half. She shows them her pendant, saying it restricts her power to 1/10. But before she could remove it, the chain broke as a powerful wind surrounded her, transforming her into a demon, and a mark on her forehead appeared as she claimed to be the Demon King. Ernest tries to fight the demon with all of her strength, but all it takes is a gust of wind to blow her away and send her crashing into the ground. Leonard swings his lance at the demon, but she simply flicks a finger, sending Leonard flying away. Sophie manages to grab the demon, using all of her energy to cast an immobilization spell, but it's not enough to hold her. Ku blasts out a tremendous fire breath, but the demon just absorbs it and sends it back at her, exploding upon contact and taking Ku down right away. With all of his friends defeated, Blade strikes the demon, but it does nothing, and she realizes that Blade is holding back because he hasn't even unsheathed his sword. She threatens to kill him if he doesn't fight seriously, and she blows him away with a gust of wind. Blade unsheathes his sword, trying to fight back, but she easily parries his attacks. She blasts him with fire, wondering if that's all he can do. Blade blocks it with his sword, but it causes it to shatter. Ernest hands Asmodeus to him, and he says he can finish the fight with one blow. But the demon thinks he's being arrogant, telling him to bring it on. A tremendous aura envelopes him, and he launches a deadly blow. The devil uses her barrier to stop it, but it soon begins to break, and she soon realizes it isn't enough. Wondering who she's fighting, Blade claims that he's just an ordinary guy and releases his more powerful power to shatter her barrier, allowing him to defeat her. Blade is happy that everyone survived, but he suddenly collapses. He wakes up in the infirmary, where the doctor reveals that she was worried about him because he almost died. Blade promised not to be reckless with his power, as it could cost him his life. After some time, we see the demon walking around the academy, and when she sees Blade, she is about to call him the great hero, but Blade stops her, confirming her suspicion. Then Blade asks her what happened to Maria. The demon tells him that Maria has a different personality, saying nobody has given her a name, but the other students are calling her Mao Chan. The king reveals that he was the one who welcomed Maria into the school, knowing about her identity. He explains that her deceased mother was human, and his father's fate is unknown, but they all know him as the Demon King. That evening, Mao visits Blade in his room, inviting him on a date. She grabs onto him, and they fly together. She takes him to the roof, where she reveals that she stayed at the school because of him, saying she has become attached to him because of his powers. Blade reveals he can now only use 15% of his power, and Mao says he's not worth killing as he is. But she won't leave the school until she kills him in the future. Mao thinks she likes Blade, but she isn't sure about her feelings, and she reveals that she can't remove her pendant because Maria's consciousness won't allow her to do it. Mao can tell dark shadows are forming all over her heart. Maria has always blamed herself for all the misfortune, and when their mother died, she started doubting if her father ever loved his mother, and if he was the cause of her suffering. So, to escape that painful thought, Mao was born. A few days later, Maria's friend Eliza reveals that she has done her research, saying the pendant is not a sealing item, but a recording device. Eliza speculates that it could contain a message from Maria's parents, thinking it could bring Maria back. Mao allows her to activate the pendant, and Eliza tells her to open it, and when she does, it causes a hologram of the Demon King to appear. They hear the Demon King telling Maria's mother to forgive him for leaving her behind, because he had to fight someone, and he didn't want to get her involved. The Demon King told her to name their daughter Maria, and he told her to tell Maria that he was already dead, but he stated that he would love them even after his death. Mao starts to cry as she reveals that Maria's consciousness is about to take over. Everyone calls Maria's name, and her consciousness returns to the body as she continues to cry. Later, we see Blade having a duel with Maria, who allows Mao to take over her body. As they fight, we learn that Maria wants Mao to coexist with her. So even though Maria's consciousness is dominant in her body, she still allows Mao to take over. Thank you for watching till the end. If you want to continue this anime, let me know in the comment below. Please don't forget to subscribe and see you next time.